Hello everyone. Welcome to my Turkish Spotlight Secrets channel. All the details are in my video. If you enjoy it, please like and subscribe, and if you want to support even more, you can hit the join button below. Thank you for being here. Now let's get into it. In the last few days, both European and Turkish media have been jolted by a cascade of headlines about a story many assumed had quietly faded, the complicated past between Baris Arduc and Elcin Sangu. It all reignited when the Turkish star sat down on the Spanish program La Revuelta and, visibly overwhelmed, opened up in a way that no one expected. With a trembling voice, he admitted to losing far more than a romance during the years he chased roles and acclaim. He said he'd traded parts of his heart for the momentum of his career, and as he struggled to compose himself before millions, his words detonated across social networks, stirring memories fans thought they had put to rest. The reaction was instant: curiosity, sympathy, arguments, a storm that swirled from Madrid to Istanbul. It didn't take long for the long-awaited answer to arrive. After days of speculation spiraling into debates, Elcin Sangu broke the silence she had protected for years. She appeared last night at a high-profile fashion gala in Istanbul, dressed in black that blended strength and grace in equal measure. Her entrance paused the room. Cameras flickered and then steadied as though trying to drink in every frame. But the real spark was not the dress or the posture, it was the composure behind her eyes. When the microphones gathered and a reporter asked whether she had watched Baris Arduc's emotional confession, her expression softened without breaking, and her voice, gentle yet steady, carried the weight of decisions already made. Yes, she had seen it. Yes, it stirred emotions. But she reminded everyone that stories, especially ones written with the ink of two people, always have another side. I have listened, and I understand the reaction, she said, careful and clear, like someone laying down a fragile truth. But no story is only one person's sorrow. I chose silence for a long time because I didn't want to revisit that period. Now I'm ready to speak for myself, and only myself. That statement rewired the mood. The shuffle of feet grew still. Reporters leaned forward on arms that suddenly seemed too short. The room's air thinned into attention. And then she continued, drawing a line between tenderness and resolve. It was never a question of whether they cared. They did. But for her, love was only one element among so many others she needed to feel safe, trust, respect, and consistent support. She poured herself into those days, and she watched him pour himself into the acceleration of a career building faster than anyone could keep up. She said that however heartfelt his words were now, they arrived late, too late to reassemble what had once felt like a shared path. Her intention wasn't to diminish his pain, and yet she painted a fuller picture, not hostile, not vengeful, just exact. The heart of it, she explained, was that she hadn't been the one to step away. He took the path first, choosing a calendar packed with projects, international meetings, whispers of an offer abroad, and new faces constantly joining his team. The pace lifted him, but it left her in a long shadow. She wanted something quieter, a life measured in ordinary days. He needed to test every stage he could stand on. That was where they drifted, not in one explosion, but in the slow, persistent pull of different needs. Every sentence fell gently but landed heavy. The press scribbled as if the ink might hold heat. Elcin allowed moments of breathing space between her phrases, fencing in a tremor that flickered through now and then and made her words feel even more honest. When someone asked whether she felt any regret, her answer echoed beyond the hall and began trending within minutes, not as a slogan, not as a jab, but as a lesson. She said she did not regret feeling what she felt, or giving what she gave. Authenticity, she reminded, doesn't become a mistake just because it ends. Sometimes people recognize the worth of what they had only after it slips away. That reality may be painful, but it is also true, and survivors of love often live with that truth more quietly than the world's suspects. Another question cut closer: did she watch him cry on television? She paused, and the edge in the room melted a little. Yes, she had seen the broadcast. Yes, it hurt. It was like looking into a room you used to live in, familiar, and empty in places you didn't expect. Tears can be sincere, she allowed, but they can also be heavy with remorse or the ache of a clock you cannot turn back. Only she knows what she carried then. Those memories are hers, and they stay complicated no matter who is watching from the outside. It wasn't an attack, it was a calm accounting from someone who'd made peace with a chapter that once refused to close. Silence spread again, the kind that signals something important has shifted. For years, this story had felt like a window left open. Now, slowly, it began to draw shut. Then the conversation veered unexpectedly. A journalist asked about the actor's rumored relationship with model Sarah Bluma, suggesting his words on Spanish television might have put the young woman in an uncomfortable position. Eyes sharpened, but Elcin didn't bite. She refused to turn pain into spectacle. She said she wouldn't judge anyone's love, and that it was unfair to interrogate a current relationship because of her name. She wished him well, truly, and she hoped he would look forward rather than backward. You cannot build anything lasting, she said, if you keep living inside yesterday. That sentence rang like both a blessing and a warning. Support for Sarah, perhaps. A gentle caution for Baris. A reminder for anyone listening that nostalgia can be as seductive as it is dangerous. As the night went on, her tone gained firmness without losing warmth. Some people, she noted, choose to live as archivists of their own pasts, forever cataloging what used to be. Others pick up a pen and write the new page. She was already on her next paragraph. No one moved. Flashbulbs stuttered, then steadied, again and again, trying to memorialize the face behind the words. One voice rose above the others. After hearing everything, did she feel at peace? Peace, she said, is not a souvenir you claim at the door. It takes work. It breaks and reforms. But speaking out in her own cadence mattered, more than keeping a superficial calm that protects everyone else's comfort. She didn't want the old story to hang over her any longer. She needed to own her narrative, to define what hurt meant and what it had taught her. Even skeptics softened. Those who had dismissed her silence as calculation now understood it as armor. She had waited long enough to ensure that when she did speak, it would be for clarity rather than combat. What she delivered was a declaration of emotional autonomy, a boundary drawn with elegance instead of anger. It wasn't theater. It was closure. Another reporter stepped forward and asked whether this moment marked a pivot for both of them. Of course, she said. Life rarely follows the plans we write in our heads. Every detour carries a lesson if you pay attention. She had learned hers. He would need to uncover his. The cameras captured her steady presence as she turned to leave, a soft applause breaking out beneath the bursts of light. She walked away not as a character in a fairy tale, but as a woman who had figured out how to turn private grief into something that could grow with her instead of choking her. The aftermath was immediate. Across Europe, headlines underscored the poise and quiet power with which Elcin Sangu faced a situation that could have dissolved into spectacle. She refused to throw darts. She offered reflections. She didn't replicate the past, she evolved from it. While analysts unpacked every syllable, one truth remained visible through the noise: this exchange will be remembered not for scandal, but for how she pulled ownership back into her own hands and created a calm center in a storm that had spun for years. Meanwhile, commentary around Baris Arduc's emotional confession kept proliferating. Some saw a man finally confronting what ambition had cost him. Others heard regret that arrived late to the scene. His international trajectory had been dazzling: meetings abroad, long shoots, a schedule that left little oxygen between flights. Admirers celebrated the candor, critics questioned the timing. But there was no denying that his words came from a raw place. The image of him fighting emotions on a foreign stage was as human as it gets. The social media pulse reflected the divide. Fans of the on-screen chemistry between Baris and Elcin relived the era when their names felt inseparable. Those who prioritized privacy said both deserved space. The industry watched closely, recognizing how rare it is for stars of their stature to crack the door open on what fame demands. In the middle of it all, the core remained the same: two people who had once been aligned, then thrown off by different gravitational pulls, now speaking with the benefit of distance. As midnight bled into morning, clips from La Revuelta and the Istanbul Gala ran side by side on television and mobile screens. One sequence showed a man who looked like he'd finally admitted his heart had been paying interest he never accounted for. The next revealed a woman who had learned to recognize the cost of staying quiet too long and decided to change currencies. Taken together, the contrast didn't cancel anyone out. It humanized them both. By sunrise, the conversation had turned into a broader meditation on how love competes with careers in the public eye. The pace of red carpets, the ping of new offers, the invisible negotiations with managers and producers, all of it adds up until the center starts to wobble. In that context, Elcin's call for trust and support, and Baris's acknowledgement of a loss larger than any tabloid headline, made sense in a way numbers never will. When the day moved forward, so did life. Work waits for no one, and the city's rhythm resumed. Yet the residue of those statements lingered. Fans posted thoughtful threads about balance, time, and the courage it takes to speak without cruelty. Some urged everyone to let the past rest. Others hoped for reconciliation, even if only in spirit. And through it all, the message that echoed the loudest was simple: honesty has a way of making room where there was none. At Turkish Spotlight Secrets, we want to hear from you. Do you think Baris Arduc remains bound to what once was, still carrying the echo of that past in his choices? Or were those tears his way of saying farewell at last, a final bow to a chapter he knows he cannot relive? Share your thoughts in the comments, tell us which other Turkish artists you want us to dive into, and don't forget to subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. If you'd like to support our work directly, you can click join to gain access to exclusive content and help us continue bringing you the stories behind the spotlight. Here at Turkish Spotlight Secrets, we don't just chase the headlines, we follow the heartbeats behind them. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one. Take care, and goodbye.